conversation.
Yeah, we did actually. You're right, but like in boycott of what's happening overseas, my thought is, I'm only going to drink domestic vodka.
There you go. Well, we'll have to talk about whiskey. I'm not a whiskey girl, but I keep hearing it keeps coming up. Keeps coming up in my life. So, but welcome as always. How would you like me to address you?
Irresponsible, irresistible.
I think we covered the irresistible part already. Thank God before we were recording.
You want? I mean, like my former call sign was my former call sign from the Marine Corps, right?
No, what was it? Did you tell me? Did you tell us that?
I don't know. I mean, are we live on the air right now?
It's being live streamed. No one's on.
Hey, how are you? Well, my former call sign was G-Spot, but it's not it's not at all sexual. It isn't. It's because I couldn't land the damn helicopter in its right parking space, so no one could say my last name. They called me Grandino, Giordano, and I would always end up in the wrong spot. So I got the call sign G-Spot. So if you'd like to call me G-Spot, please go right ahead. But
I think I'm going to stick with Dr. G because I've gotten comfortable with Dr. G. Unless you want me to call you James. James is so formal. Do you use James?
Yeah, James, like I should be like driving an Aston Martin and tell me like what you want my drink shaken, not stirred.
No, exactly.
Dr. G is great. I think if I remember, that's what Justin calls me too, is Dr. G.
Is it? Well, that's okay. So we're set. That's Dr. G and Chris. We just call him Chris. So at this point,
that'll work.
Yeah, we're over the formality, but again, welcome. It's always a joy. We had great fun last time. Your slides look wonderful. So,
So the gig is certainly to let Justin go first because he's going to really present all the S&T. And then what I'll do is I'll just jump on what he talks, really hit the S&T quickly, and then dive into some of the ethical, legal, and social issues. All right.
Yeah, I think that's where it lands. We've been posting, somewhat pro-con or somewhat explorative work on BrainChip on our socials, as well as some of the public concerns, and that's always colored by the experience. Hi Justin, how are you? My dog is leaving. This young, I don't know if you can see her. Wow. There you go. That's my beautiful Blue. She is a lovely lady who's leaving. She's 2 years old. Go away. Go away. Goodbye.
Justin, I haven't seen you in a long time. How you been?
I know, this little thing called a pandemic happened between the last time I saw you and now. I can't believe it's been 2 years. It's amazing.
It has. It's been a long time, but you look great. You still playing the drums?
Likewise. Absolutely.
I figured. I figured with the pandemic, you've been like playing at home and jamming. You haven't been jamming out anywhere, have you?
No, not at all. But yeah, still music's in my blood. So
no, I get it. I definitely get it. So I think we have a good 1-2 punch here going today, like we always do. So it's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Lucia, am I doing the slides? Are you guys doing the slides? How are we handling that?
So what we normally do is I only show sort of the setup slides and things like that. You will be able to share screen. So just hit share screen like you normally would in any presentation or meeting, and drive your own screen, drive your own slides and advance them on your own. We have found that's the best thing. So what'll happen, as you notice in the blogging, is Chris introduces. I'll introduce you both back to back. And then I'll ask you to get started. I'll welcome you and thank you and ask you to get started. You'll share screen. We go from there. And then Dr. G will come right after you. So after your video and your last slide that says, go Battelle or thank you, he will just jump in and he'll share and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, that sounds great. And is this coming through okay?
Yeah, it looks great, Justin.
Yep. Okay.
Just to let you guys know, this is all live because we have a bunch of people who couldn't register. So I just put the link on the website. So
who knows who will show up.
So Lucia, since Justin will be up literally in about 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I don't want to start sharing my screen now. So as soon as he's done, just transfer over to me and so I can share and then I'll just jump in. Okay.
Exactly. All you have to do is hit the share screen button right at the bottom of your screen. It's normally green.
Got it.
So, yep, you're just going to do that. And then let me see if...
Should we make James co-host just in case if there's any problem?
James? Sure.
That would be me.
This way, if whatever, there's some kind of crazy settings prohibiting you from doing something, we sort of get it over with.
Yeah, we'll have an extra person. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Actually, I want to unshare it. Justin, are you good with sharing your video? I know you have a couple of them in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just checked the settings on Zoom here that the audio is going to be shared too, so it should be all fine.
Good, because that's kicked my butt a few times in the recent
Yeah.
past. So just putting that out there. So
Sure.
good. But no, it's wonderful to have you both. We were catching up with Dr. G. He was with us last year for a presentation. So we're excited to hear your sort of piece on what you're doing, and then just have Dr. G jump right in there. And from there, we'll go into breakout rooms, as I mentioned originally. We'll see how many people are around. And again, this is recorded. We share it across our socials. We share it via our website to our members. And then we also, again, point to it as sort of an educational piece as well. We like to get into a little bit of a nitty gritty, in particular in the panel. So when people come back from the breakout room, I will ask a question, and it may be something like we've heard some wonderful things today. We've heard some really, thoughtful, things to consider. What keeps you up at night? What are we actually talking about here? And then we'll just get started and have a conversation around that. We are going to, we'll see how the audience behaves in terms of raising their hand or putting questions in the chat. Sometimes they go along with us, sometimes not. If not, let's just have a great conversation. We're super excited. You guys haven't really been in touch for 2 years, so that also adds to the energy of it. And Chris, I know, has always some things to say about all the technologies that we visit and that we bring our experts into. So just enjoy is what I would say. It should run about an hour. We always leave a little extra time at the end, but I think the conversation gets really interesting, and we run about an hour or so. Okay.
Great. Fine.
Sounds good.
Right. Yeah. We've taken a lot of the pressure off of ourselves around, we have to have, 100 people in the audience. We have to have this, we have to have that. We got smart. We record our material now and make it broadly available and use it to really try to share with different partners that we're trying to build.
Do you get metrics on the views and who's viewing? So the number of views and views?
We can. The problem is that as of now, this is on our website, this is on our YouTube, and this is through the LinkedIn. One thing, and I don't know whether that's relevant or not, but considering what you're doing, like for example, nobody from China can register on our event. Mm-hmm. Like we used to be able to do it, and I just got in the last 2 weeks a bunch of things that if they try to click, it's firewall. So I guess LinkedIn doesn't work over there. So we stream, which I thought it used to. So we stream this on the YouTube. So I can pull everything together. It just takes a couple of days to do it, and that's it. The other thing, which I think is one of the best utilization of you as a speakers, is actually your personality and what you do, because we have this educational program about the innovation for the kids, and nothing makes the people like looking at the Falcon X rocket flying, and this is Falcon X in the biochip. So the kids are going to watch this, and that's an inspiration, which is absolutely irreplaceable for us when we talk about how you do the innovation, how you do this, because they need two things. One, the inspiration. The second thing, believe that they can actually do it. And we specifically address a lot of kids from the underserved or underprivileged environment, trying to kind of break this idea that, innovation is Elon Musk, so you have to be rich to begin with, and you have to belong to some kind of club.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, whatever we James, whatever you did for us for the other conference, we share quite widely, and the people sort of came back with a lot of different things. And one of the things was like, oh, this is much more advanced than we thought. A couple of people come with the questions, the one that I sort of wrote down. If somehow we run out of the questions, so this is good inspiration. The other thing is, after the conference that was last year, we actually thinking about making the panel and start thinking about, how you do those high-end, high-risk, ethical innovation, at least to have a discussion. So I think what we're trying to do right now is to have a more or less the same conference we had last year, but then finish off with the panel of 15 to 25 people who, for example, sort of maybe there is some kind of, common ground when you think about this innovation, how you do them in the slightly more responsible way without impeding the development, which probably is naive for us to think that way. But
hey, Chris, I'm gonna get out of, I don't know how to do this. I need to get off screen. We had this before. I'm on screen while you're, so.
Yeah, you know, what I'll do also is I'll kill my camera so you have more bandwidth. Justin goes first, and then when Justin is done, I'll bring my camera back on. I don't think there's any real need for them to see my face while I'm giving them slides. I've been told I got a great face for radio, and I'll go with that. So during the question and answer period, we're happy to do that. Justin, feel free to use that again. Just give me credit. But yeah, I'm happy to. So if that'll work with you guys, that's good by me. Okay.
That's fine.
Did I mute myself? What happened here?
You know what? The way you see how you get rid of yourself, you just hit the stop video. That actually I kind of eliminate you. Okay. I think my view is that it's great to actually see the face of the people. We're recording on whoever is on, and I think it adds to the being this a little bit more personal, because like we really rely on a lot on the personalities of the people.
All right, so I can't get myself back. Do I keep it just minimized?
Give me a second. No. Ask to start the video. What about now?
Start my video.
Yes. So if you click at the right upper corner, you have you have this.
I can mute my video.
I will start.
So that just go ahead.
Are we giving like 2 minutes and then we're starting?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to start recording because I think one. Right. Hello, everybody who is joining. We are going to give 2-3 minutes before we start, just to make sure that everybody who wants to join is already online. Meanwhile, we can try to predict what will happen in the Ukraine in the next 1 month. I think everybody gave up initially in February, but looks like a story is going on for another month. We can also try to guess if the COVID will be contained in China.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious what happened if it won't. Then I guess the whole country will shut down. It's not going to be good. Let's give it 1 more minute. Okay, perfect. Nice. All right. Okay, everybody's fashionable flight. Couple minutes, like a French people. Looks like we have a lot of people from SHCI and other people from other. Hey, Dorota, nice to see you.
Hello.
Hello. All right. I guess we slowly start. Hey, Kari, hello, Gabriela, her Nadia. Hello, everybody else that I don't know, but I'm really glad to see him. So I think it's a good time to start it. My name is Chris Wadański. I'm happen to be a president of the Society for Healthcare Innovation. I hope you guys are going to enjoy our next edition of the Edge of Innovation series. Just to remind you, Society for Healthcare Innovation is designed as a society to make the innovation more accessible and allow the people who cannot do innovation to make it easier, faster, and better. We pride ourselves in looking in the future of the healthcare innovation. We're looking at the subjects which are about to emerge in the media, but just before that. And that is why we always look for the events, innovation, or the solutions which are very, very far in the future, but they are about to start. And one of them are the brain in the chips. I'm sure we all hear about what Elon Musk is doing and a couple other people. But the important part is that we go beyond what Elon Musk is doing. We're asking, we're looking, we're searching, and we're finding the speakers which are truly innovative in the field, and they can tell us what can be promise and what can be danger of all those new technologies. And I think the best person to introduce those, our two formidable speaker, is Lucia. So Lucia, go ahead.
Okay, first, Chris, do you want to go through format and etiquette for us?
Oh, thank you very much. That's sure. Thank you, Lucia, for keeping me on track. So we have pretty much a two presentation that will be run by our speaker. They will share their thoughts and ideas. We almost never actually ask them to present what we want. They present what they want, and I think that's an advantage because they will show you, the raw thoughts and how the things works. We have a very short breakout session for people. Then we coming back over here. We have a panel discussion, and then we talk for a little bit more. And then if anybody would like to connect with us or with the speakers themselves, we have a little bit extra time. In the terms of the etiquettes, mute your audio. If you don't talk, make sure that the camera is positioned properly. I do steal ideas from the people how I should design my room, but sometimes those ideas are not really applicable. I would minimize visual distraction. I know Lucia has a dog, so that's always gets into the frame. And then make sure that, when you talk, there is always background noise so we can understand. And, we don't really have a guidelines in the breakout rooms except using the common sense idea. So Lucia, now for sure, back to you.
Thank you, Chris. So very excited to have our two speakers with us, Dr. Sanchez and Dr. Giordano. So just quick introductions I'll do for them. Just incredible experts. Their bios are quite extensive, but I'll give you a brief look at them. We're going to introduce them together at this point, and then they will begin presenting, go back to back, and then we'll go into breakout rooms. Okay, so we'll start with Dr. Sanchez. An honor to have you with us, a Battelle Technical Fellow, noted expert in biotechnology. He creates strategic vision to guide Battelle's life sciences and biotechnology business. Dr. Sanchez leads the organization's technical investment strategies and drives collaboration across Battelle, the government, industry, and academic partners. Prior to joining Battelle, Dr. Sanchez was the director of the Biological Technologies Office at DARPA, where he spearheaded vital breakthrough technologies and capabilities for national security in the areas of neurotechnology, gene editing, synthetic biology, and infectious diseases. Thank you, Dr. Sanchez, and welcome. Dr. Giordano, James Giordano, is a professor in the departments of neurology and biochemistry and chief of the neuroethics studies program at Georgetown University Medical Center in DC. Dr. Giordano is a bioethicist of the Department of Defense Medical Ethics Center, distinguished fellow in science technology and ethics at the Stockdale Center for the United States Naval Academy. He's a senior fellow in biosecurity, technology, and ethics at the U.S. Naval War College in Newport. He serves as senior science advisor fellow of the CMA branch Joint Staff Pentagon, and serves as director of the Institute for Biodefense Research, a federally funded DC think tank. Dr. Giordano is author of several hundred peer-reviewed publications, 7 books, and 40 governmental reports on brain science and biosecurity, and is an elected member of the European Academy of Science and Arts, fellow of the Royal Society of Medicine in the UK, and a Fulbright professorial fellow. A former U.S. naval officer. Thank you for your service. He served with the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps. So, Dr. Sanchez, take it away.
Great. Thanks so much for the invitation to present. It's a real thrill to meet with everybody on the line today and to talk about neurotechnology. So, title of my talk is Future of Neurotechnology is Now. And this will be an opportunity for us to dive into what the innovations are and what those implications might be moving forward into the future. So let's just start by talking about the frontier of the brain. The brain is our most valuable possession. You may have never thought about it that way, but for all of history, our brains have been kind of trapped within our skull. And we're at a time now where neurotechnology can liberate what our brain can potentially do beyond the bounds of what our body might provide. And if you're a person that is living with serious injury, let's say you're living with a spinal cord injury where the signals from your brain cannot reach your body, your ability to try to express what your brain is doing is severely impaired. And neurotechnology can help to liberate that, can provide an alternative path for the signals from your brain to get out of your body and into the world around you. If you're not living with a medical condition, but you might want to have your brain function in a different way, it might need to help you in your everyday life. So consider you're a high-profile executive. Maybe you want cognitive abilities that are a little bit beyond what you can do, especially as you're getting older in life. Neurotechnology might be able to help in that regard in terms of memory function or other related kind of cognitive function, and help you to connect with others or connect in your job in a different way than before. Again, huge implications of that. And in addition to high-performing executives, what if you're a high-performing athlete? Again, your brain and your body interact with the world in a very different way. Neurotechnologies are a different conduit that enable connections and performance in ways that your natural body doesn't or may not afford. Again, all implications from pure medical all the way to executives and human performance. Neurotechnology is really opening the door of what might be possible, not only today, but moving forward into the future. So you might be wondering a little bit about what is the technology that supports all of this. In very simple terms, it's technology that interfaces and records from neurons. It's all of the mathematical modeling or the artificial intelligence to decode or interpret what those neural signals mean. Or if you're writing information back into the brain, there's the encoding of all of that. And then lastly, there's the aspect of kind of behavioral, connecting brain to behavior and understand the functional relationships between them. There's neuroscience, there's neural engineering, biomedical engineering, applied medical technology. All of that really comes together in this field. Again, it's a place in which innovation resides and a place that for innovation to really grow. So with that being said, let me just show you a few videos. So when I was at DARPA and now when I'm at Battelle, I've been working on neurotechnology for a lot of years, and there's been some really remarkable breakthroughs that have happened over that time. So let's start back 2012, person living with spinal cord injury. That's Tim and his girlfriend. She says she wants to hold his hand. He has a direct neural interface and he's controlling that robotic arm just by thinking about it.
The highlight was 45 minutes ago. You got to use a robotic arm for the first time, and you got to reach out and touch somebody for the first time in 7 years.
Had a profound effect on him. 2013.
And straight down.
Another person with a spinal, an injury that prevents her from controlling her arm. She's doing a fist bump with Scott Pelley just by thinking about it.
I can do from this position in my life physically, but now I'm doing so much. It overwhelms me. I'm so glad I did this.
She said she wanted to fly a virtual aircraft just by thinking about it. So banking an airplane to the left just by thinking about it. Pretty amazing. And it's not just restricted to the brain interfaces for control. There's sensory.
Index and middle.
That person was blindfolded and could feel the touches on the robotic arm. And now peripheral nervous system is also a place that we can interface with. Feeling a virtual door through a neural interface. Memory function. So this is a part of another program, recall 12 words without brain stimulation. You see this person got through 3 of those 12 and they did the old face palm, can't do the rest of them. Now with a direct brain interface. So that was the breakthrough moment for us. That person said, I just, I had the image in my head. I could just see what words needed to be recalled. So hopefully those examples show you neurotechnology is a technology of today. It's remarkable what it can do for people living with injury, everything from movement to sensation to memory and full bidirectional communication with the brain and the peripheral nervous system. So why did we do all of this? At least when we started that work at DARPA, it's always been about the people. So for military personnel, especially those that have served the country, a lot of them come back with serious, serious injuries. And we always worked extremely hard to try to provide technologies that help to make those individuals more whole again once they had served the country. And they didn't have a whole lot of options before neurotechnology existed. And I firmly believe that the foundational work that we've done in neurotech is going to provide those options, again, not only today, but far into the future. But neurotechnology does extend beyond military personnel. It could be first responders. It could be the everyday person on the street. It could be a friend or a family member that is living with severe injury. Neurotechnologies are providing options that traditional medicine has not been able to solve. So that's why I see there's huge potential of this technology moving forward into the future. With that in mind, I want to share one person's story. This is the person on the bottom left here. And I want to share a video of kind of what neurotechnology means to a person like him.
I had just finished my freshman year of college. I was out in the ocean and I dove out into a wave, something that I've done many times before. I dove into a sandbar that had drifted in, which fractured my spine and damaged my spinal cord, and that left me as a C5 quadriplegic. I kept asking the doctors, what can I look forward to in the future? One of my doctors said, hey, we want to try this muscle stimulation device. It really sounds like it's something out of a science fiction novel. Reconnecting my mind to my body.
So what's different about Ian's story, unlike the videos that I just showed you in terms of controlling robotic arms and things like that, Ian said he wanted to control his own arm. So some of the work that we've done at Battelle is developed this wearable technology that goes on the nerves and muscles of the forearm, in which you can directly link your brain activity to those stimulators on the nerves and muscles and reanimate your own hand. Again, a person who had their normal life, they went out on vacation, jumped into the ocean, and their life was profoundly changed. And they said neurotechnology could provide an alternative approach in which they could reanimate their own body in a way that they did before that injury. And just a few examples of what he could do, these very early prototypes a number of years ago. So, grasping and pouring a bottle. For a person that is paralyzed, they can't do that really well. Pinch grass to do stirring. Let's say you want to stir your coffee in the morning. When that is taken away from you, it makes a huge difference. Swiping a credit card. And with this brain to muscle interface, you can swipe a credit card again and get that kind of dexterity that he didn't have before. So again, huge potential of neurotechnology in a very personal way for somebody that's like Ian. Last couple of thoughts before we go over to Jim next. What's beyond some of the examples that I showed you today? Neurotechnology can be used in things like neural VR, new and emerging area where kind of virtual environments and neural interfaces might come together, where people have very immersive kinds of experiences. Even beyond health and rehab kind of things, gaming experiences that involve bidirectional neural interfaces might provide an experience that's beyond anything that a traditional kind of controller or screen might provide. We all think about autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicles, but might those vehicles have some kind of human-machine teaming in order to enable that experience of driving to occur in a very different way? And we've already started kind of working on things like that, or seeing what the possibilities of that might be moving forward into the future. So again, lots of possibilities of interfacing not only the brain and peripheral nervous system, but even end organ function into these closed loop neural interfaces that could change how humans connect not only with the world, but the people that are around them. So with that being said, one final video for the team, and this is from Ian's perspective about innovation.
The biggest thing is it has to be speculative, because that's how you make the big leaps forward. It has to be seen as something that can't be done before you can make it something that can be done. And, yes, there might be something that's way too far-fetched and isn't realistic. But if you put the right team together and get the right people together, I think it's something that, can be done, and, take those wild ideas so that way you can push science forward.
So I know this group is all about innovation. I think Ian really summarized it perfectly. Big over the horizon problem, great team that is looking to solve some of the hardest challenges. I hope some of the videos that I've shown you here today show that that is possible, and there's a great team working on that today, and those technologies can make a huge impact in people's life, whether you're living with a medical condition or you're just the average consumer looking for a new way to experience the way that you connect with friends or family or others. I really see a huge potential of neurotechnology moving forward into the future. So thanks so much, and over to you, Jim.
Thanks very much, Justin. And ladies and gentlemen who are looking in, I've had the opportunity and a real pleasure of working with Justin first when he was a program manager at DARPA, and then when he was head of the BTO. And the level of innovation and the vision that is driven by the projects that he runs, I find to be nothing short of absolutely amazing. And many of the key issues that he brought up, I really think come to the fore when we're considering what this neurotechnology not only is, but what it can do. In other words, really, how far can we go with this? And I think the issue there becomes one of exactly that, the intersection of what we can do, the intersection of that with what we should do, for whom, for what reason, under what conditions, and can we do the things we should? So each and all of these things, I think, are oriented towards, if you will, the low-hanging fruit. Now, before I go any further, I must understand that much of my work, as is Justin's, has been funded by a number of very ardent supporters, both from the government and from private institutions. But nothing I'm about to say here necessarily reflects their position on these matters. The basic concept here is simple. As Justin well elucidated to you, we're trying to, quote, zap the brain, pinpoint, sharpshoot key areas in the structural node networks arrangements of the brain so we can affect the functions of the brain, which colloquially we understand as mind. So in the strictest sense, what we're really doing is we're exercising our capability to assess the brain, to access the brain, and therefore to affect the brain. And this really brings us to the fore of what we know about this current state of brain-machine interfaces. If we could parse these into three discrete realms, you'd see there are those interfaces that are used to assess brain function on a variety of levels, from the cellular to the systemic, and utilize those assessments in interpretive ways that go beyond the cellular all the way to the psychosocial. What does it mean to be able to peer into the living brain and analyze those structure-function relationships and correlate them to an individual's thoughts, their emotions, and their behaviors? But humans are tool users. We just don't look under rocks. We use what we see under the rocks, and very often we use the rocks as well. Brain science and neurotechnologies are no different. Technology, techne logos, a rational accounting of ways that we can use tools, inclusive of the tools of knowledge that we gain from these investigative exploratory neurotechnologies that allow us to peer into the living brain and understand how these nodes and networks operate as systems in concert to do the great stuff that arises out of the great stuff in our heads. How is it that the gray stuff of our brain produces the great stuff of consciousness, thought, emotion, memory, love, hate, all the things that we are? As Justin well alluded to, I would like to posit that literally since humanity first looked into some reflecting pool thousands of years ago and recognized that that thing looking back is us, we've been focusing on what makes me me. How do I define myself? How is it that I am? I mean, we can look to the words of René Descartes, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But if you will, the Descartes' corollary is really, how is it that we think? And if we can identify these processes, well, we can target them. It's not just enough to assess the brain or to access the brain. We want to use that information. We want to use those substrates as viable targets to affect what the brain does. And those functions that we define to be important, not only to our survival, we've gone way beyond that. In some cases, that's elemental, as we see with those individuals who may have profound neurological injury or disease, but more than that, to improve our quality of life on a variety of levels, from, if you will, the medical to the quotidian. And these then become the interventional neurotechnologies, as you've seen. In other words, we use the assessment tools to provide pinpointed targets, not to buckshot the brain crudely, but to ever more sophisticatedly target the brain in a sharpshooting way to avoid side effects and increase therapeutic effectiveness and efficiency in ways that are useful and meaningful to the best interest of those individuals who are the share and stakeholders. Patients, but not just patients. Beyond that, I'll explain in a moment. And so we see a variety of technologies. Some that are used peripherally, as we saw, haptic limbs that are able to sense and evoke outputs that are very articulate. And ever more, we're focusing on the central nervous system, the spinal cord, and the brain in ways that were heretofore impossible to allow us to access those systems and modulate their functions. Some of these are donnable and doffable, take them on, take them off. Others are implantable. And although right now the barrier seems to be that there's a neurosurgical gatekeeping to get these things where they have to go, that's nothing more than a speed bump. More and more, what we're looking for is minimally invasive or non-invasive means of introducing vast array of transmitting and sensing electrodes into the brain in ways that don't involve surgery, that can be introduced to the bloodstream, through the nose, through the gut, and then can also be removed, perhaps, in ways that are equally non-invasive and allow the remote capability to read from the living brain and write into the living brain. Now, as soon as I said that, what I've done, ladies and gentlemen, is unscrew the lid of Pandora's jar. What are we doing here? I mean, strictly what we're saying is we're doing control of brain structure and its functions, ergo mind control, behavioral control. And we're also literally reading, we're interpreting these signs and signals we get from our tools and making meaning of them. That's reading, mind control. And ever more, we're reliant upon these force multiplying technologies, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, where realistically the components of the machine are interfacing and providing a method of interlocution between these machine systems and the human, between the human brain and the human body, and between human brains, other human brains, and perhaps either humans and other organisms and humans and machines. But the point that Justin really brought to light is that the diversity of potential uses isn't just to those individuals who have been injured or who are suffering the ravages of the human predicament of disease and degeneration. The idea of human survival has certainly been paramount to our existence, but it's not just that. Come on, look around you. You could boil water on the stove. You could use an old-fashioned coffee pot. And we could certainly take the train from East Coast to West Coast, but that's not enough. It has to be better. And flourishing is a major component of human striving. It always has been. And we can conceptualize that flourishing within biomedical contexts and biopsychosocial realms, according to the acronym that our group has used, together with work that had been previously funded by Justin when he was at DARPA called Neuro Hope, Neurological Health, Occupational Protection, and Enablement. Let's keep people healthy and keep them well. Let's provide operational and occupational protection so they can do whatever it is, vocationally, avocationally, diving into water in ways that keep them safe, keep them healthy. But also let's make them better at the things they do, because if they're better at the things that they do occupationally, we decrease the risk for injury, but not just. What NeuroHope essentially does, ladies and gentlemen, is literally opens a broad vista left of Bang. In other words, in the occupational and preventive realms. How do we make ourselves more of what we are? How do we increase our flourishing in those ways that are going to extend, for example, a healthy lifespan, qualitatively, not just quantitatively? And although we may think to ourselves, yeah, there are particular constraints upon that and who gets the goodies and so forth, also be aware that this is not simply happening in our backyard. Brain science in the past 20 years has become a global enterprise, as we can see here illustrated in the map off to the right, that demonstrates major multi-billion currency initiatives in the brain sciences. And what we recognize is that that globality, that internationality of the brain sciences goes beyond what used to be considered the traditional, quote, West, and ever more is being influenced by non-Western cultures. China, other countries in Asia, Japan, India, and more than that, what we're seeing is that these capabilities essentially reflect longstanding cultural ideas, needs, values, mores, and ethics, and those ethics may not necessarily be uniform. Oh, in some cases they're aligned, but cultures differ. And within those cultures are the contexts and constructs of research, development, test, evaluation, and various use cases. And what this has then done is this has created, if you will, an engine, a speedway for neurotechnology. Many entries, very fast, and big prizes. Prizes in survivability, and flourishing, and capability. Economic prizes, certainly. And this also creates particular leveraging opportunities on the global stage of what is referred to as the neurobioeconomy. And here we begin to talk about certain issues of how countries can leverage their capabilities in the neurotechnology and neuroscientific space for economic benefit at international bargaining tables. But if what we're saying is that the low-hanging fruit is doing good, and arguably it is for each and all of these applications of neurotechnology, inclusive of those that might be considered national security defense. I mean, let's face it, no country goes off to war and says, we're going to be the bad guy. Countries are propelled towards bellicosity because they're either trying to defend what they hold to be right and good, or they're trying to advance those rights and goods in those ways that extend their definition of same geopolitically. But we have to ask, what good? Whose rationality? What sense of justice? And you can imagine that even the concept of health, occupational protection, and enablement brings, if you will, the wolves out of the den. On one side, the ethical, legal, and social issues are intensely technologically focal. These are new technologies. We haven't been doing this for decades. And let's face it, if someone were to put a gun in my ear or in Justin's ear and say, tell us right now how mind occurs in brain, folks, they'd have to pull the trigger because neither he nor I know, not because of some individual ignorance as either of us are researchers, because the field simply doesn't know. But you know, it may not be relevant. We may just simply get a large enough repository of information that we can just base our interventions on those patterns. And moreover, it may very well be that we won't know how the brain works and operates unless we go there and develop these technologies. A self-fulfilling not only prophecy, but trajectory. But more than that, I mean, what are the actual capabilities and limitations of the technology? I mean, it seems science fictional, but it's actually neuroscience factual. What is the validity of these assessments and their viability in a variety of uses? And what happens if the technology literally runs away from us, not only by virtue of uncontrollable tech, but the desire for that technology, the demand side versus the supply side? What will that do? Which then brings us squarely into the social milieu. Is there some inviolability of mind? Is that a protected space that we shouldn't, quote, mess with? Does this also in some way interfere with autonomy? I mean, clearly, I think the driving mechanism would be we're giving people even more of their agency and autonomy back through the use of these neurotechnologies, but it depends on how we use them. The Elon Musk rhetoric of a chip in everybody's head, so to speak, although maybe somewhat fictional or phantasmagorical, at least for now, might also suggest really who's controlling the chips. And of course, what does that really constitute? Is that treatment? Is that protection? Is that enhancement? Who gets the goodies? How can we actually be informed to consent if in fact the information is new? And how do we use these things? What do we do if we enhance individuals and then we stop the enhancement? Do we then develop something our group called PEDS, post-enhancement distress syndrome? And what is that? If it's now a distress syndrome, is it something that needs to be treated? And how do we treat it? With the very same thing we enhance them? And then ultimately, if these things continue to escalate as they will, is there some chance for brinksmanship? Getting better, wanting more, leveraging these in ways that create, if you will, economic improprieties, in some cases, asymmetries, where now the neurotechnologically enabled haves are ever more distant than the neurologically non-enabled have-nots. How do we go about it? Well, again, under both Justin's leadership and his predecessor, Dr. Bill Casebeer, our group was tasked with developing a risk assessment and mitigation approach, which we called on-ramp. In other words, if you're going to get on this neurotech speedway, there are certain things you need to do before you get on the ramp. It begins with a 6R approach: responsibility for realistic assessment of the tech, research to evaluate its effects and process, responsiveness to burdens, risks, and harms, as well as the benefits, revisions in the technology and the way we talk about the technology, and then ultimately regulation through policy to ensure rigor in the science and the way it's being controlled. We have to then ask 6 W questions, and here a deep nod of homage to our colleague, Dr. Bill Casebeer, who really started the ball rolling in this domain. What neuroscience and tech is available for current use? Why is it being considered for use? Very often, these things go into the DARPA maxim known as the Heilmeyer Catechism, asking key questions about, is change needed? What will change be? And what is the effective outcome of the change? When will it be administered? Where? School? Clinic? Home? Military? Are there going to be mechanisms in place for some continuity of support? If you get version 1.0 and 3 years later, version 2.0 comes out, does that make you obsolete? Or can you keep getting upgrades like you can with a cell phone? And will everyone be able to get the upgrades? And what happens if everyone won't? What are the actual capacities of the neurotech? What are the consequences that are being incurred by it, good and bad? What is the character that is being developed for the research? In other words, yeah, obviously doing good, making good, patient's best interest, but how might the character of the individuals or systems be affected? What are the contexts? Biomedical is one thing. Lifestyle enhancement and enablement is another. Military capability and occupational performance might be yet another. And let's face it, if we boldly go, as we will and we are and we should, if we're asking people to walk the wire of being the new neuronauts, is there some net under the wire that we can provide for them for continuity of research and clinical care? And that's going to require bucks, and are the bucks in the bank to do so? I bring these issues to the fore not because I'm trying to put brakes on the science. That science and that technology is my bread and butter. And I say we should go. But I think it's also important that we do so in a way that while we're trying to untangle the Gordian knot of what the brain mind is all about and do so through these advanced technologies, we don't inadvertently open a can of worms as we go. So our take-home message to you is that, yeah, neuroscience and technology are exciting, provocative, in some cases contentious. But it demands that not only a scientific and technological side, but also on the multicultural, ethical, legal, and social side, that we take a moment, not to impede progress, but to incorporate the processes of measurement, maybe twice, before we make the cut. Measure twice, cut once. Because once we open this Pandora's jar and the goodies come out, we have to be equally prepared to deal with the potential gremlins and goblins that may be lurking in there as well. If you're interested in some of our work in the field, I provide you these references. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach me there, as well as the questions we have today. Thanks much for your time.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sanchez. Thank you, Dr. Giordano. This has been incredible. I'm always so honored to have such experts here, as we all are. What we're going to do is we're going to move to breakout rooms. And we have, let's see what we have. We have, I'm not sure how many rooms we're going to have, but we're going to have, I'll ask you to introduce each other, introduce yourselves, discuss ideas and questions that you heard here. And then come back with a question, throw it in the chat if you will for us, and we'll start our panel discussion. Chris, if you can throw us into breakout rooms and keep the speakers with us in the main room.
No problem. I'm going to drop everybody, and on the good side, or the kind of how interesting is the stuff? We have over 10 likes on our YouTube. So let's move people to the room.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, Karin. Do you want me to join you to any rooms?
Yeah, can you put me in the one you put me into with Lucia? Because I'm on my headphones in this room.
Okay, no problem.
And audio in the other. Okay.
Done. Hey, Siska.
Hey there. We still have some stragglers in here.
Yeah, I see the Cisco is trying. Gabriela said she's only on the listening mode, so I'm not going to put her in the room. And Cisco, can you talk?
I can. Sorry, you had sent me the YouTube link first, so I was on that.
No, I'm going to throw you into one of the rooms. Okay, and let's go here. And we have a Justin Sanchez. Put Justin back. Justin, let me just. Okay. Justin is coming in and out. Okay, it's in. Hey, Justin.
Hi, yeah, I'm back. When I pressed that leave room button, it kicked me out of the whole thing, so I just joined back in.
Okay, I will try let's try this again. Maybe
I think I need to stay here, right, Lucy?
You should, yeah, you should stay here. You should stay here. I think, where did you put James? Where'd you put Dr. J?
I put James with Tyler because they both, yeah, it's a critical mass.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. Well, I figured we'd give Justin a break, so.
Okay, we can give Justin a break.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. You got about 10 minutes, 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing good on the YouTube.
Good. I'm glad.
Mm-hmm. Let's see how we're doing on the Chinese front. Mm-hmm.
So we just need to watch time.
It will automatically kick them out.
Will it give them that 1 minute thing?
60 seconds warning. I'm really getting good at this.
Good.
I should just go to the Hollywood and work as some kind of, the guy who edited the Star Wars movie instead of having my current career.
Ridiculous. All right. So how much longer do they have?
I don't have a counter, but I think we have like 5 minutes.
Oh, wait, they have about 5 minutes. It has the counter.
It does?
Yeah, so we're about 5 minutes behind, which is fine.
How many questions we will have? Few. I have one for Justin. If you miss the time, so I can fill in. Otherwise, we can sort of.
Well, I think, you know, what keeps you up at night? How do you think around the unknowns? So we talked about, you know, we should be doing this. We need to talk about access. So how do patients actually get the goodies? How does that work? What kind of are we at a tipping point with the technology around, you know, enhancement? How do Alzheimer's patients get a hold of this technology when we have nursing homes and assisted living homes filled with people who can't recall, who have very little recall? So how does that work? Do they have any sense of how that works? Where is the line? If we know that there's runaway tech and there's runaway desire for it, where is the line? And who holds that line down? Which then leads to regulation. So in particular, global regulation, who is driving that?